In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the rear brakes on this Mercedes GLC300. These are the pads and rotors we'll be installing that are located right behind your rear wheel. Let's get started. To do this job correctly, you need a scan tool to put the rear parking brake in service mode. Once you're connected, depending on your scan tool, it will look different, but usually you go to Hot Functions, EPB, Electronic Parking Brake. Now click Move to the assembly position. In my case, that's how it's labeled. And then in my case, I'm going to click F1. You can hear the parking brake motors operating. Now your parking brake is in service mode, so you can turn the ignition off and do the brake job. Then we will return here at the end and deactivate assembly position or exit service mode. With the vehicle safely raised and supported, use a 17mm socket, remove all 5 lug bolts, and then remove the wheel. Careful on the last one so the wheel doesn't fall off. I'm just going to gently support it. Now from the outside of the caliper, you'll see where this metal spring retainer is. Using a small pry bar, just try to pry it away. So what you want to do is, well, pry it away, but also pull it out at the same time. So you can see like this, you can pry this and hold it, and then pry this inward. There we go. So basically you have to unhook it from here while prying it away. This comes off, set this aside. We will be reusing it. You can get a new one if you think you need it, but usually these are reusable. Now on the back side of the caliper, you'll see where the brake pad wear sensor is connected. With a small screwdriver, lift up on this tab and pull out on the sensor to disconnect it. And then with an E10 inverted torque socket, we're going to remove this bolt and set the connector aside. Now you can see on the back side of the 2 slider pins, you have some rubber caps. Pop those off. These caps are the same, set them aside. Now with a 7mm hex bit, remove the 2 slider pin bolts that hold the caliper onto the bracket. Make sure it's fully seated, so you want to wiggle it and push in. You can pull those out if you want to, or you can leave them in and then pull them out later. I'm just going to try to push this out all the way, set it aside, and we'll remove the lower one as well. There it is. These are the same. Now you want to take your caliper off of the caliper bracket. Just wiggle it and slide it. Sometimes it's stuck on there. Okay, there we go. The pads come off with it, that's okay. Set these aside, take them out. And now we want to continue by compressing this piston in. So we'll get our tool in here and open up the bleeder screw to allow fluid to exit while pushing this in. They make different styles. This is just a ratcheting style. I'm going to apply slight pressure. With an 11mm, I'm going to break free the bleeder screw. This one has a rubber boot on it, a cap. So take that off, 11mm socket, break that free. And for me, I have a collection receptacle with a hose. This is going to collect my brake fluid so I don't make too much of a mess. Now push the piston of the caliper back in. This process should be very smooth. It should go back with ease. If you have to force it, the piston is seized, the caliper is bad, and you would need a new one. And this is why it was also important for us to put it in service mode, otherwise you would not be able to do this. Oh, that just bottomed out, so I'm going to stop. Take my tool out. I will let this sit for about 5 seconds, just so brake fluid can come out and no air can be trapped in the system. There we go. Now take this out and close off the bleeder screw. Just snug it. Wipe down any brake fluid that may have dripped and reinstall the cap. Now with an 18mm socket from the backside, remove the 2 bolts that hold the caliper bracket onto the knuckle. Break the other one free before we remove the first one completely. Take this off and set it aside. Now from the outside of the rotor, you'll see where the screw is that holds it onto the hub. We'll use a T30 bit to remove this. If you can use an impact driver, usually that helps you break it free faster. If not, you could use an impacting screwdriver or just hit it with a hammer and the vibrations should break it free. With this off, you can now remove the rotor. Now this hub for me is very clean, so I will just take a wire brush and brush the debris off, but sometimes there is rust. If there is rust, you can use a sanding disc or a wire wheel on a drill that spins faster and get all this nice and clean like this. Now use some brake parts cleaner and rinse down any of the dust that you've created. You want to make sure this is clean and free of any oil. Now we will be applying some anti-seize once this dries off to make sure that this does not corrode in the future. Apply a thin layer of this. You don't want to put too much. If you put too much on here, it will start spraying out as you drive, and that will get on the rotor, maybe even on the brake pads, where it does not belong. You especially want to focus on this outer edge where the rotor sits and the inner edge. In the middle, it is important that you put it on, but not as important because the rotor does not touch that surface. You want to make sure that the rotor does not rust on here. Now on the new rotor, spray the backside with brake parts cleaner to get rid of any oils, fingerprints, grease, or other debris. Now install your rotor, and once you put it on, make sure you line up the hole where the screw mounts. The new rotor will come with a new screw, so you want to thread that in. Use the same T30 bit to tighten it down. Just snug. And now we'll use the brake parts cleaner that we used earlier to clean this outer surface. Now on the caliper bracket, we have to clean with a wire brush, usually right where the pads sit. Sometimes you might have to use a file if it's a lot of rust that built up here and you need something a little bit more aggressive. For me, a wire brush will work just fine. I just want to get rid of all of the debris that's here, as well as the rust. Flip it over, do the same to the other side. Now take some brake parts cleaner and rinse all of this down. We'll let this dry. Now I don't always do this, but sometimes when I have shiny, fresh metal like this, what I like to do is put just a little bit of brake grease or silicone paste on the contact points where the pads go, only because I don't want this to rust quickly. And this will also, of course, help the pads slide around a little bit better. But it's very important to put only a little bit. If you put too much, it will go on the rotor and contaminate the brake pads. So very, very thin layer. This will also collect a lot of dust, which is why I want to put only a little bit. But in my opinion, it is necessary this time because I don't want this fresh metal to rust. Now put the caliper bracket over the rotor, line it up with the knuckle. Install your 2 bolts. We'll bottom them out completely. Now with these bottomed out completely, torque them to 44 foot-pounds and an additional 45 degrees after that, and that means 1/8 of a turn. That's 44 on the first one. 44 on the second, and now 45 degrees. Once again, 1/8 of a turn. All right, that's it right there. My torque wrench reads degrees so I can ratchet it back and forth, but if yours does not, you can mark the bolt and then just watch it turn. All right, that's tight. The brake pads that we're using will be different from inboard to outboard side. The one that goes on the inside has this spring at the top. The one that goes on the outside does not. So you need to make sure you put them in the correct direction, or on the correct side, I should say. That way they can fit properly. Now slide these in, just like that. Make sure they fit. Oh, this one's gonna fall out. Perfect. Now let's bring the caliper over. Carefully place it over the pads. These slider pins, they have to be cleaned a little bit. Usually they are in good shape and clean, but I will spray them down just a little bit with brake parts cleaner and wipe them down with a rag. That will help get off all of the old grease or debris and oils that are on here. And I will coat them with a very thin layer of silicone paste. Now this silicone paste is rated for brakes. It can withstand high temperatures. If you do not have high temperature grease, use brake grease. Otherwise this will melt off. Now with that brush with some silicone paste, I just want to put some inside where the slider pin will slide. This will make it slide a lot easier, smoother, and will prevent rust from building up if this was dry. Just a little bit, not a lot. Now push this on. Take one slider pin, push it in, and the other. Push that in. Torque them to 18 foot-pounds. Now place the caps back over. Push them in all the way. Now take your brake wear sensor and slide it on the inner pad, right in that groove. Press it in all the way. We can reattach our connector over here. Put that bolt in. This was the E10 inverted Torx bolt. Snug it, just a little bit extra, and we'll plug the connector back in. There's no direction to this, by the way. It just plugs in both directions. Just like that. That clicked. Now take this retainer spring that goes on the outside and place it on, making sure that it touches on the bottom and it goes in right here. And then you push it over and press it in. You want to make sure that it's locked. If you pull on it, it should not come off. Now let's put our wheel back on. Make sure the holes line up so you can put your lug bolts through. Start them by hand to make sure they don't cross thread. We'll tighten these in a cross pattern to seat the wheel and then torque them also in a cross pattern to 111 foot-pounds. (111 foot-pounds) in a cross pattern. Here we go. Double check them all. And that's torqued. You would now do the same to the other side. Now that the job is done, you want to get inside the vehicle and pump the brake pedal several times to seat the pistons of the caliper. Then go under the hood and on the driver's side, remove this plastic panel. This gives you access to your brake master cylinder. Just use a rag and clean off any dust and debris, and then remove the cap. On it, you'll see that it says to use .4 or more, or higher, brake fluid. What we have here is a .3 and 4, which means it works for both, so this is perfect. I will fill it up to the max line, which is this line right here. Sometimes it's hard to see the level. I saw it, but if you want, you can use a flashlight, shine it right here, and that will show the level a lot better. Now take the cap and put it on. Snug it up. And now take your cover and just put it back on. Press it down. Perfect. Now back in the scan tool, you want to deactivate the service mode for the parking brake. So for me, that's F2. You'll hear the motors running. Perfect. Everything is set back to normal. You can now drive your vehicle.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. the only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.